Hey friends, happy Tuesday, 7th of February. Nice to be with you. I'm Father Bill Hill, priest at Holy Spirit Catholic Community in Rock Springs, Wyoming. Use a little technology. I'll give you a reflection on the daily readings. They are linked down below. When I'm done, click that link, read the readings prayerfully, even 2-3 times, then turn off your screen. Spend some time in quiet, and in silence, and in prayer with God before you move on to other things. 2 announcements. If you would be praying for our confirmation students, they're on retreat this weekend. Sure would appreciate your prayers for them. Second, hey, if this is helpful for you, sure would appreciate it if you would like it, upvote it, thumbs up it, subscribe, share it into your feed with folks who knows who might benefit from spending a little bit of time in prayer, listening to a random Catholic priest from Rock Springs, right? The power of social media really is incredible. So we have switched gears. We're working on the book of Genesis, and we are working on Mark's Gospel. I'll actually start with Mark's Gospel because more of my attention is drawn to Genesis today. Jesus winds up in a dispute with religious authorities about the need to be purifying vessels and washing hands and other sorts of things in a ritual fashion before a meal. And Jesus especially gives them Isaiah, the prophet. And my read on this is that it's about inner transformation, right? Like as Catholics, we do lots of external things, but it's always with the idea of internal transformation. And so that might be a place to pray, and I think we're going to talk about that some more in the book of Genesis. But how is it that I'm asking that God would change my heart? Not just help me to change behaviors, but to change my heart, my attitudes, my values, my disposition, to truly be renewed in life-giving, abundant love of God. That would be what I think to pray with about that dispute about the law in Mark's Gospel. Okay, let's talk a little bit about the book of Genesis. Well, not going to talk about it. Let's talk a bit about these days. There might be 3 areas that I want you to pay attention to. But again, like I told you yesterday, if this stirs up great questions about, wait, how do our modern understandings of biology or astrophysics sync with this ancient text? Don't be afraid of that question. There are lots of great resources trying to make sense of how we read Genesis in its own time and how we understand the modern world using all of the tools that God has helped the human family to understand. There might be 3 areas that I would invite you to pray into in relation to these stories, or this story of the days. The first, God makes the human family in the image and the likeness of God. Traditionally, this has been understood to be intellect and will, that the ability to think rationally is part of how we are made in God's image and likeness, and the ability to set goals and then to move towards them, to action, to have the ability to choose our will and not just automatic behaviors. Those are generally considered to be classically the ways that we are created in the image and the likeness of God. Yeah, we can chew on that. Is that right? Especially as we understand more and more about maybe how the about how the animal kingdom works, and maybe especially mammals and primates. But I think that the heart of this is ancient Israel understanding that there is a particular way that human life and dignity flows from God, because we're made in the image and the likeness of God. And it is an incredible gift. As Catholics, we hold that in original sin and in the fall, as we'll read about in the next few days, that image and likeness is marred, disfigured, scarred, but not lost. That still we are in the image and the likeness of God, and that exists in absolutely every human person. Created in image and likeness of God, there is a dignity and a value that can never, ever be lost. That includes for you. So there might be people that you struggle with. Maybe you ask for God's help in remembering their dignity. Or maybe just asking God's grace to percolate a little bit deeper into the bedrock of your own life, to know your worth, your love, the care that God, the Creator, has for you. A second place that I'd invite you to pray into. God gives the human family dominion over the fish of the sea, the birds of the air, all the living things that move on the earth. Fill the earth and subdue it. You know, and that instruction to ancient Israel with primitive technology is radically different than hearing that with modern ears, with all of our destructive technology and our ability to really mess up creation in ways that messes up the human family as well. I would follow those schools that hold that this dominion language is more like caretaker language, stewardship sort of language, a power for, not power over. There are some in the Christian community that hold that dominion is all about doing whatever we want. As we understand more and more the way that God has created creation with its own natural rhythms and laws and way of being balanced, we are called to be caretakers and stewards of this incredible gift and not to just be power over. So you might want to just pray into that question, right? Like, in what ways am I caring for the gift of God's creation that God's given to all of us? Last one, the seventh day. God rested. And this is, the first time in the Bible that we encounter that biblical virtue of rest. And you know that I chide you a fair amount on this, right? We are so good at productivity, efficiency, working through the to-do list, driving ourselves super hard. How are we doing at rest? And maybe as you pray into this, you would pray for that grace to let go of some of expectations so as to be able to embrace this example of God to rest. All right, Genesis, Mark's Gospel. Read the readings prayerfully. They're linked down below. Read the readings prayerfully, even 2-3 times, then turn off the screen. Spend some time with God before you move on to other things. God bless y'all.